to do a bunch of different things, but during class, he presented the theory model on Ron Clark, just like Sarah did last week, and got so interested in it as well, found out how to go do a visit, got a group of students together, they carpooled and bumped in together and made a trip out of it, and I can't tell you how excited the class was when they heard about, first when they saw some of the stuff about Ron Clark, and then heard about the possibility of going to see the school, etc. So I know a number of people are interested here, so I'll let you explain a bit, and I know that they're interested both in what is Ron Clark and his beliefs and the school, as well as the logistics of how did you manage it.
Sure.
Kind of two pieces. Am I accurate in that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm going to slide out of the way.
Okay.
And it's all for you.
So my name is John LaCorey. I am a 6th grade English teacher in Hamilton School District. I also teach social studies, although with the Common Core curriculum now, I don't have a lot of time for social studies, but we do what we can. Just so I know who I'm working with, can anyone tell me a little bit about the Ron Clark presentation last week?
That's a good test.
We saw a clip on the school and the way it's designed and the slide and how they dance on the desk and stuff like that. And then I think we also saw how he incorporates a lot of song into like math equations and things like that.
Okay.
And the rules, the 55 rules.
55.
Essential rules, okay. Okay, so you know about the rules, you know a little bit about the layout, and it seems like you touched upon the philosophy of the school. So that's all important stuff. So I first learned about Ron Clark in my educational philosophy class as an undergraduate, and the 55 Essential Rules, which I brought with me today, is actually, it was one of the books that we had to read for that class. So that's how I learned about Ron Clark. And then came to classroom management, and we had to pick a philosopher, and Ron Clark wasn't on the list. And so I went to Dr. Anderson and I said, well, sir, Ron Clark's not on the list, but I'd really love to do his philosophy. And she said, okay, and she let me do it. So after I did my presentation on Ron Clark, it kind of fired everybody else up in the classroom, kind of like you all thought last week. And we decided that 4 of us were going to take a trip down to the RCA. And I'm the type of person that when I set my mind to something, I just make it happen somehow. I just decide I'm going to do something, and then I worry about how later. So we decided that we were going to go to Ron Clark October 14th, which was Canadian Thanksgiving, is the day we went down there. So the other 3 that went with me were all Canadian, and they missed their Thanksgiving. That's how much they wanted to go. So we went to the grad studies office, and they have professional development funding. At least they did. I haven't been here in a couple of years, so I don't know if they still do. They have professional development funding, and basically this is money that is set aside for things like this. And get these up here.
And if you want to adjust the lights,
yeah,
so people can see it.
So I can. Which one's best?
That one and the middle one. There's one on that stays on in the corner here.
Is that?
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. So before I get into all of the details about the trip down and the funding and all that, I just want to let you know how Ron Clark and going to the RCA has helped me, because it has tremendously. Using the things that I learned at the Ron Clark Academy, I integrated that into my student teaching, and because of that, I was selected as the SUNY POTSDAM School of Education's Promising New Teacher, which is it's kind of like the Student Teacher of the Year. It's the equivalent of that. One of the people that were on the interviewing committee was the superintendent for the school that I work at now. And after my interview, I brought my teaching portfolio and all those tips that they give you on how to use it, and to just kind of speckle it throughout and say, oh yeah, I can show you that. I did that, and I got an email Tuesday from the superintendent, and she said, John, I'm so impressed with your interview that I would like to have you apply for a position in my school district. So I did, and I ultimately got the job. So you can say that RCA helped me get a job, and out of the entire people that I graduated with, I was the only one that ended up with a job in New York State or Canada. So it was a pretty big deal. And now I use Ron Clark's methods, and it's not just Ron Clark. I'm talking about the Ron Clark Academy, because this goes above and beyond just Ron Clark himself, as you'll find out. I use all of the RCA methods in my teaching now, So that way it is challenging, but it's engaging. My sixth graders will tell you, because I had the same crew last year in fifth grade and I moved up with them, they love the blacklight lesson that I do each year. In fact, I'm doing one on Friday because it's Halloween, so I'll do a blacklight lesson, something I picked up from the Round Park Academy. So I still use it to this day. It's been 2 years, over 2 years since I went there, but I still use so much of what I learned there. So the trip, we went down, we drove the entire way because the Canadians have not been south of POTSDAM, so they wanted to drive down. And I said, okay. So we drove down, we went down the whole East Coast, and they got their little sightseeing tour, which was cool for them. And I love to drive anyway, so this was not part of the trip. We went to a Luke Bryan concert while we were down there. Because the Canadian, all the girls, they love Luke Bryan. So he just happened to have a concert a couple hours away. So we went down a day early and we attended the Luke Bryan concert. We had to pay for that. But so on Monday, October 16th, 2013, it was in Atlanta, Georgia. We showed up and basically we got our ticket in our email the day before, so, and it had a QR code on it, and so you just show up and with your cell phone or whatever, just give them a QR code, which was good because we didn't have a printer, so that would have been a huge disaster. So we show up and we get there, and I'm telling you, the RC is in the middle of the hood. So you drive in, and this neighborhood is not a good neighborhood at all. I mean, you're looking around and it's dilapidated buildings, and people that look suspect are walking down the street. I mean, it's just crazy. So we drove by it the night before because we didn't want to get lost the morning of, and I'm like, there's no way the Round Park Academy is in this neighborhood. There's no way. So we're driving around, and we pull up to the address, and we look at the building, and it's a brick building. We're like, there's no glitz and glamour. It's just a building with a fence, and we're like, is this the Round Park Academy? And we just assumed it was. So I mean, we came back the next morning, parked in the parking lot, and all of the RCA's kids are out on the sidewalk, and they're marching up and down, and they're singing and they're dancing, and you get out of the car and you walk over, and they run up to you and they grab you by the hand and they shake your hand and they introduce themselves, and then they sign you in, and you go through the fence. It's kind of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So, go through the fence, and the first thing that we do is we're all piled into the library, which, if you see down here, the Ron Clark Academy Library has a huge trampoline in the center of it, and they use that as incentive to read, and after you read so many books or whatever, the kids actually get to use the trampoline. On staff days, though, they let the staff members jump on the trampoline. I was not about that, so I decided not to do that, but a lot of people did. And in the meantime, the kids are dancing, and the staff's dancing, we're all having fun, and there's music in the background, and normal teachers would just look at this and go, too much chaos, right? Classroom management. But it's organized chaos, so it was really cool. It was a fun way to start the morning, rather than I walk into Hewelton now, and most teachers are walking down the hall like this. Morning. Ron Clark Academy is different. It's just crazy exciting. So, this was our day. 8 in the morning, we get there, morning celebration in the library. 9 o'clock, we do observations. So we actually watch the teachers teach. And I observed, we were split into different groups. So the other girls, I don't know where they went. They were not in my group. But I observed Ron Clark first, then I went to Ken Bearden, who actually I love more than Ron Clark. But Ken Townsell, who actually recently passed away, he was really good too, science teacher. Then went to Susan Barnes, she was an ELA teacher, and then Dr. Jones is the math teacher. So you just went in there for 15 minutes each, about, I think something like that, and you just watched them teach. So you're just applying the law. And you walk in, and like Dr. Jones' classroom, you walk in, and it's a Mario theme from like the Nintendo game. So the whole wall is painted, and there's blocks sticking out of the wall, and they're painted with the bronze question marks. And then Kim Bearden's room is, her theme is a highway theme. So she has a platform, she has a smart board and then a platform, and there's dotted lines in the middle, so it looks like a road, and there's signs all over the place, and there's graffiti on the walls. And I can't remember the other people's rooms, but each room has a different theme. Like right now, there's Hope King is one of the teachers there, and she has an Alice in Wonderland theme. So you go in there, and there's a reading corner and there's the Cheshire Cat and the Mad Hatter, and there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, the classrooms are amazing. So then after observations, we go to lunch, and that was really cool because they partnered you up with a student. So you actually ate lunch with the students. They got to practice there, because one of the things that's huge at the Ron Clark Academy is communication and how they interact with people, and teaching them communication skills like eye contact and shaking hands, so on and so forth. So got to have lunch with a student, and the student was asking us questions. Where did you come from? Blah, blah, blah. And that was really cool to get to talk with a student. We got to ask 7 questions about what it was like to be a student at RCA, and they were also, it was just so authentic. A lot of times when you force kids to talk, it's awkward, but they do such a fantastic job that it was not awkward at all. It was awesome conversation. It was almost like talking to an adult. They had authentic questions, and it was just really nice. After lunch, we had professional development in the afternoon. So each professional development was an hour long. The first one I went to was Ron Clark, and he talked about how to make sure that parents are involved with the curriculum at school. And it's really important, because especially in New York with the Common Core curriculum, parents feel left out. They feel like they can't help their students, especially with the math. So Ron Clark had tips and strategies for making parents feel useful, making them feel involved in the curriculum. I remember one of the things that he taught was having a parent tutoring night, where parents would come in and you would actually teach the parents what you're teaching the kids in class. That way the parents can go back. Now, I don't know if that would work in every school district, but it's just one thing that you can do depending on where you are. After that, I went to Kim Bearden, and Kim Bearden, her professional development wasn't awesome. I feel it was my least favorite, but it was still useful. She taught about transforming the classroom, but she talked a lot about her personal life too, and actually she turned it into a book. And she talked just about how her personal life has affected her as a teacher. So I mean, you take that, you take away what you want from that. But one of the things I loved about her professional development, and it's actually something I use now, is transforming the classroom. So instead of, if you're teaching something on ancient Greece, instead of going in there and just lecturing the whole time, why don't you have the students come in and you make columns out of cardboard, and you dress up with a toga on, and you liven up, and I did that. That was one of the things I did in student teaching. We were teaching about space with the first graders. So I actually sent the first graders to space, and they came in, I covered up the windows, I covered up the doors so there was no light. I bought one of those $30 planetariums at Walmart, and the kids came in, and I also bought astronaut ice cream for the first graders. So they came in, and they had these tags on that said NASA, astronaut, and then whatever their last name was. They came in, and we watched a video of a space shuttle launch, and then the lights went off, and they were in space. And then they got to see all the stars and the planets and stuff at the planetarium, and they had to draw. So I mean, that's kind of what she talked about, just transforming the classroom to make your lessons more lively, which was really cool. And then I went to Ken Townsel's, and Ken Townsell talked about integrating music into the curriculum. How do you do that? And he was pretty funny. He was a funny guy. He got up there, and he was African American, and he got up and he had the straw hat on with overalls. He started singing country music about biology cells, and then he throws the hat off and he puts some kind of fedora on, and he starts singing blues about the same material. And then he throws that off and he puts something else on, he starts rapping about it. So and he was trying to show you that depending on whatever your kids like, this is the North Country, so my kids, my 6th graders, they love country music. But if I lived in the city and I had a lot of kids that listened to rap music, you can still integrate music, whatever they listen to, you just take that music and replace lyrics with whatever you're teaching about, and that's a great way for them to remember what you're teaching. that was a pretty cool professional development session. At 3:30, they had house performances. So you learned that in the Ron Clark Academy, the school is divided into 4 houses. Did you learn about that?
It's very popular.
Look, it is, and that's Ron Clark. He loves Harry Potter, and the whole school is designed after Harry Potter. Like, there's a huge fire-breathing dragon in his gym, and the RCA is divided into 4 houses, and and they're named after foreign words that mean like friendship. So one is revoir, one is amistad, which is Ubuntu for friendship. One is, I can't remember the other 2 names. But there's a black house, a red house, a blue house, and a green house. So each house had to come up with a performance, and they only had a half hour to come up with it. So while we were in the 3rd professional development, the house performances, they were planning this, and they had to act it out and everything, and they only had 30 minutes to come up with everything. And the thing I remember about that is the first group went, and Ron Clark got up there, and he's like, that was awful. And usually teachers, they like to sugarcoat things to make their students feel well. Ron Clark isn't like that. He's very much giving them direct feedback, good or bad, because his philosophy is if you sugarcoat it, then they aren't really learning. So he told them that was awful, how can we make it better? And we all looked around and were like, oh, he didn't just say that. And he did, and so they had to come up with ways that they could have made it better. And I just thought that he was so strict with them, and we all thought it was amazing. Like, that's awesome. But Ron Clark said it wasn't good enough. So he has super high expectations and standards. And then after that, there were goodbyes, and we got to get our pictures taken, and then we headed out at around 4:30. So I have pictures. So this is the morning time. Between the time that we were in the library and we had observations, we came into the main building of the school, and Ron Clark gave us a speech. And you can see he's up on the table, and he's doing this, and he's talking, and he's very animated when he speaks. So he's up there, and he's doing his thing. In the middle picture, you see him, he's dancing, and he does that while he talks all the time. I mean, he's just constantly moving. And his philosophy is, teachers, they teach all day, and they just stand there and talk to you like I'm doing right now, and then they buy LA Fitness memberships, and they go to the gym after work, and it's like, why go to the gym after work when you can dance and move around all day long for free? He actually said that. So, and in the middle picture, you can also see there's a red picture, a blue picture, and I don't know what color that is, but part of his house system is house points. You know how in Harry Potter they get the house cup? At the Ron Clark Academy, each student from the house with the most points is picked, and that's the student of the month. And their picture is actually displayed on a TV screen in the main portion of the building, which is really cool. Also, you'll see the slide is right there. That was the last thing. We became slide certified. Everyone has to become slide certified when you go to the Ron Clark Academy. So at the end of the day, you have to take the slide downstairs. Unless, there's some kind of medical reason, or if you're so scared that you don't want to, they don't force you, but it's highly encouraged. And afterward, you get a sticker that says, I am slide certified. So I put the sticker right in my book.
So how was the slide, Jeff?
It's intense, because they grease the floor, so when you come out, you shoot out. And they hope, Ron Clark says that when you come out, there's like a pole or something there. It's about 50 feet away, I'd say. Your goal is to hit that pole. So when you come out, so they say in the directions on your ticket, don't wear a dress that day. So, and it's a drop. Like when you go in, it drops and then it starts. So it's intense, really fun. This is so cool. How many of you are Canadian? Okay, so I'll be shocked if the Canadians don't know who this is. Does anyone know who this is? Tony Dungy, I know that. You know who he is. Yeah, first African American head coach in NFL history to become part of the Hall of Fame, and the first one to win the Super Bowl. So Ron Clark likes to have a lot of celebrities. Like one day, Oprah Winfrey was there. So he always has celebrities at his academy. And it was kind of funny because we're all sitting, I mean, you see the crowd all around. This was at the end of the day, and Comcast was there, which is kind of like Time Warner Cable. So they were there because they donated $10,000 to the Ron Clark Academy. So they were there to present the check, and I'm standing there and I'm looking around, and all of a sudden I see this guy, looks like Coach Tony Dungy. I'm like, this is unbelievable. That's Tony Dungy, and the other girls are Canadian, so they're all into hockey and all that. They have no idea what football even is. And they're like, who is Tony Dungy? I said, Tony Dungy is the first African American to win a Super Bowl. This is crazy. He's in the Ron Clark Academy right now. I said, I have to go up and get his picture. So I walk up and I'm like, Coach Dungy. He turns around and I'm like, this is amazing. And I got a picture with him. I don't look too great, but the selfie's there. And he actually signed my book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Tony Dungy signed my book. So I don't know. They're like, I tried to equate it with hockey. I don't know any hockey coaches because, admittedly, I don't watch hockey. But I'm like, that's like meeting Wayne Gretzky. So that's the only person I knew. So totally not the same, but you get the drift. Tony Dungy became slide certified. And you see all those students there, and that's actually Mr. Council that's next to Coach Dungy. The students pick you up, you know, when you slide out, you're like, ooh. So the students, they grab your hand and they pick you up. There's no way you're getting yourself up. So there I met Ron Clark. I met Penn Townsell. He was the one that personally touched me that day because during his professional development, he talked about his upbringing, and his upbringing was like mine. He came from a very poor family. He came from nothing, and you know, part of the philosophy of the Ron Clark Academy, Delta sponsors them, so they fly anywhere in the world for free. Their students, their staff. So Ken Townsell has been to all 7 continents in the world, including Antarctica. And he was showing us pictures about Antarctica, and you know, he said, I just stopped one day and I'm like, you know, why me? What did I do to deserve all of this? I came from nothing. I came from a poor family, and that resonated with me. So I wanted to go up to him and just let him know that after school. And he says, you wait here. And he goes back into his classroom and he comes back with this boa constrictor. It is a real snake, a boa constrictor. His name was Deacon. And he hands me Deacon, and I'm like, okay, because I'm not scared of snakes, but it was huge. The thing was big. So that was fun. And you can see Mr. Thompson's classroom in the background. It has the periodic table, and so that was a lot of fun. And there are the other girls that went with us, that went with me. And this is us in front of the gate of the Ron Clark Academy. So funding is the last thing I'll talk to you about. As I said, the Graduate Studies Office has professional development funding, so if you're interested, go and talk to them. We also had help from other places. The Dean's Office offered to give us some money, and then the Department of Curriculum and Planning offered to give us some money too. And the trip was completely free for us. It was 100% reimbursable. We paid for nothing except for the Luke Bryan concert and the hotel that we stayed in the night before. But other than that, it was completely free for us. So, I mean, it was a fantastic trip. It was life-altering for me. I mean, that was the day when I left with so many tools that allowed me to excel in student teaching, but also allowed me to excel now as a full-time teacher. So, I mean, it was worth the trip. Definitely worth the trip. I have Ron Clark books here. Also, Kim Bearden she's the co-founder of the Academy. Ron Clark and Kim Bearden met because he was awarded the Disney Teacher of the Year for elementary school. Kim Bearden was awarded the middle school, or the secondary school Teacher of the Year that same year. So that's when they met, and they decided to open this academy together. Ron Clark used the money that he made from his 55 Essential book. He used the profits that he made to open this school. It was a factory before he opened it. It was a rundown, empty factory, and he changed it into what it is today. So Kim Bearden is amazing. I'm friends with her on Facebook, and we talk, and I'll run ideas past her, and she's super cool. Also, there's a guy named Adam Dobico he just left the Ron Clark Academy, but he's still involved. He was a teacher there, but he was also the person that if you wanted to have the Ron Clark Academy come to you, he would come out and he would give you the strategies and the stuff that I learned by going to the academy. And he just wrote a book called Inside the Trenches. So I call this my Ron Clark library, and I keep it right at my desk in my classroom. So I don't know. That's pretty much all I have to say.
I think we'll do questions now.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's lots of questions. I have a ton, but I'll let you folks go first. I'm just gonna turn the lights on.
That's
We're gonna
fine.
leave the tape running so that they hear the answers to the questions as well, so.
And I probably left a lot out, so if something didn't make sense, let me know. It was a long time ago, 2 years. Any questions? Yes.
I love this, like the academy and like the system, and it just is so amazing and stimulating. But it seems kind of like an introvert nightmare to me, from what I've heard. So I'm just wondering, are you like introverted or extroverted, and was that talked about at all? Like,
You know, people think of me as an extrovert, but I am a self-proclaimed introvert. I'm not the person to go out to parties. Like, I'm not. Big crowds make me nervous. Chaos makes me nervous. So I have introverted qualities. I guess all I can say is, even for introverts, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. Even for introverts, when you're in a classroom, I feel like it's completely different because you can't be introverted in a classroom. I feel like to be an effective teacher, you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Otherwise, you're not going to be very interesting. If I walked into this classroom, I probably wouldn't sing and dance and act like an idiot. But I do that every day in my classroom. The sixth graders think it's hilarious, you know? So I feel like there's two me's. There's the teacher that's inside, there's me inside the classroom where I'm not afraid to be myself and do stupid things. And then there's the reserved me where I'm everywhere else, where I feel like I have to, where I'm nervous. I get very nervous and I have to stay calm. So I think you'll find out that once you're in a classroom, you'll drop your guard a little bit. Do you agree with that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're very much, you feel like you go into a mode, a persona on stage, giving a speech, whatever you want to, you kind of go into your teacher mode.
Yeah.
Even if there's a lot of shy people who are great teachers, it's just, because with kids, it's different than us, it's harder with peers. It always is. Adults, it's harder. But when you're with kids and you're having fun, you do the goofy things, or you just be yourself and you crack the jokes. And so you definitely have more energy when you're with the kids. They give you energy.
I was just gonna say that you feed off of them.
Yeah.
And they feed off of you, so it's awesome. In fact, my next door neighbor, the 5th grade classroom teacher, she hates me because she comes over every day and she says, "You are too loud." And I said, "Can we be too loud?" I mean, we're just constantly moving, we're talking, we're singing, we do music Monday every Monday. I mean, we're just constantly doing stuff. And I think that other teachers who haven't been exposed to RCA methods don't quite understand it, and they're a little reserved, and they're much more, and I get it, like with math, it's harder to do things like that, but it's still possible. But yeah, I'm not well liked by the 5th grade teacher for that reason. She'll call me and she says, "Can you quiet down?" And I'll say, "Nope." But we get along. But I'm not gonna alter the way I do things because she thinks we're being too loud.
But you're raising a good point because you've said it twice already with the teacher next door, and also you go to Ron Clark and then you come back and the teachers are walking down the hall. And I mean, there is a culture of a school, and how much Ron Clark can you fit into an existing school if you're the only one?
Right.
Right? But sometimes you just say, "Give me the room at the end of the hall where I won't bother anybody and I'll do my thing," and it's fine. I mean, every teacher's different. You're going to have different teachers in a school anyway. Maybe you'll start to change the culture. Maybe some people would have liked to have done a little bit more of that kind of stuff, but nobody else was. So, but maybe if one starts and a few start,
Right. Absolutely.
you never know.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I might just not know because I actually missed the presentation lesson, so I was ill. But in terms of like special education services, what kinds of things do they include? And were you able to see those faces at all? Like, are they just as
I was not able to see special ed spaces. He has them, and that reminds me, I will say this, a lot of people are skeptical of the Ron Clark Academy because, and one of the criticisms that he faces and the Ron Clark Academy faces is, okay, you guys are funded by Delta, you fly anywhere in the world for free, you get to choose your students because it's a private academy. So, really, I mean, obviously, if we had all of that freedom and luxury, we would have this awesome school too. And that's not fully true. What Ron Clark says, and I tend to agree with him, is that everything that they do, there are two things. Everything that they do inside the classroom is stuff that you can do in a public setting, because everything they do, because these are all former public school teachers. They excelled at what they did, but they were all former public school teachers. So everything that's done in the Ron Clark Academy is stuff that they've done as public school teachers. So they say the things that are going on inside the school should not be deterred just because it's a private academy. As for Delta, yeah, that's cool. But Ron Clark says you don't need to travel all over the world to have exciting lessons and to engage students. He says, that is a luxury, but obviously nobody else has that. That's a Ron Clark thing. But even if you do, I mean, you just have to make the learning relevant to the students. So even if you took the students bowling, turning it into a life lesson, a math skill, with geometry and stuff like that, you can use any kind of traveling as long as you make it interesting. And we were just on SUNY POTSDAM campus Monday. We were here Monday. I took the 6th graders up here because we're learning about Greek mythology. So one of the things I taught them is that, constellations come from Greek mythology. So I assigned them a constellation, they researched the myth behind it, and then we actually came to the planetarium and they got to see those stars in the sky. So it's stuff like that that Ron Clark says that you can do to make learning fun for the kids. You don't have to travel across the world to do that. And now with technology, we have Google Hangouts, FaceTime, and all of that. So you can access learning on different continents and in different countries. So it's actually education is more accessible now, which is awesome. So, but back to your original question with special ed, he also says that they accept students of all different levels. They don't pick the brightest to go there. They have high students, they have medium students, they have low students, and IEP students. I didn't ask about that because at the time I was a student teacher, so I didn't have a lot of context to ask that question. And special ed isn't something that I focus on, so it just didn't enter my mind. I had so much else in my mind that I wanted to ask. But I mean, that's a great question, but I didn't see any space, but it's there.
And I'm trying to remember from the presentation last week, they said something about there are fees to go there, but there are also lots of opportunities for scholarships or something
That's true.
Can go
And
there.
the money that you use to go to the observation, it's expensive. It's $360 a day. They have 1-day sessions and 2-day sessions. We just went for the 1 day. But all of that money goes to scholarships for the kids. So 100% of that money goes back to the children, which is great. So there are all kinds of scholarships.
So I'm going to ask some questions and please jump in because I'm thinking of the things that we need to know, okay? What grades does the academy go to?
Ron Clark Academy teaches 5th through 8th grade, and he said he designed it 5th through 8th grade because those are the years when you either lose a student or you keep that student interested in school. As they turn into teenagers, they either lose interest in school and they get interested in whatever else they're doing, whether it's drugs or boys and girls, which still happens, but that's when they begin to lose interest. You walk into an elementary school and the 1st graders, they all want to hug you. 6th graders do not want to hug you. They don't want to touch you. They want you to leave them alone. They're too cool for school, So once they get to that hormonal teenage phase, it's easy to lose them. So Ron Clark wanted to open this academy for those grades only. And he stresses that they only accept incoming 5th graders. And so, let's say your kid is in 5th grade and you want to go to Ron Clark Academy in 6th grade. He doesn't allow that. You have to start in 5th grade and go through.
So you were similar to this class, saw a presentation, a bunch of you got together and said, we'd really like to go. How did you find out about how to go? How did you find out about, you know, that hosting and what days, and how did you like do the organizing part?
When I said my goal, when I did Ron Clark presentation, I said my goal is to meet this guy because he's like my hero, you know. So I went to his website. That was the first thing I thought of. And on the website it says educator visits, and then it just has all the information there, things that you have to do before, the fees, and they only have specific days that you can visit, so you have to pick those days, and that's how I figured it out. So once I figured out the date we wanted to go, and we checked with the SUNY POTSDAM calendar to make sure that there was a day open down there, that we didn't have school here, and it happened to be on Canadian Thanksgiving. But once we figured that out, we're like, okay, we will go down there, then comes the funding. And I just went to Josh in grad studies, and I said, is there any type of funding, scholarships, because I'm not too proud to pay. So he said, yeah, we have professional development funding, and then I went to Dr. Anderson and I said, can the dean's office do anything? And then I think Sandy Chadwick actually offered. She said she doesn't usually do that, but she liked us so much that she wanted to offer some money. So, and then that was that. We just drove down.
And when they came back, they did a presentation that anybody could come that wanted to, and we did tape it. If you still have access to that, I could make that available to you as well, because that was more like fresh when we came back, you know, details and stuff.
Yeah, because there's so much that I forgot. It was so long ago. I mean, I remember the stuff that applied to me, but there's probably so much stuff that we learned and saw that day that either didn't apply to me or didn't interest me, and then, you know, you just forget it.
Do you still have that presentation?
I was never given it. I think Josh does.
Josh has it, okay,
Yeah,
I'll
he
get
must
it,
have it.
I'll get it from Josh. Now, I'm not sure if it's posted on the grad studies webpage already, because I know it was up for a while, but I can ask about that, and that's something that people can look at too. So basically, that's what I recall too. You went to the webpage and found out, you know, how their visits work, if they have certain days and they kind of picked, and people who are interested are talking about between when classes are done before they start up next student teaching next semester or classes, whatever stage they're at, that there's a good long breakout, but they're hoping there's something in there.
Yeah, and each year the Ron Clark Academy has a conference. It's a 3-day conference. So I didn't go to it, but you can go to it.
At the academy?
It's at the academy,
Okay.
and then they have a tacky prom. It's pretty cool. And there's pictures every year of it.
And do you know, that's probably like spring, summer?
I think it's in June.
Yeah, okay, so this one, but, yeah. Also, anybody else have questions while I think? What else would you need to know in terms of, you just figured out the logistics of who was going, and you carpooled, and did hotel, and
So, did you just keep your receipts, your like gas receipts and your hotel
Yes.
receipts, and
And we
then?
had to fill out forms for that, and then we just attached the receipts, and then we got mailed a check. So it was all reimbursable.
the key is that you get everything moved up front. If you probably moved right up a little somewhere or something.
Yes, you have a better proposal.
It's very easy. You just, you know, who's going, what you're doing, what you're seeing. Oh, I know, you also said, there's an academy that you can go to, but you also said people will come here or
Yes.
or elsewhere and present about Ron Clark. Is that information on the website too?
It's not, well, I don't know, because I never looked into that, because we went down there, but I know it costs money, and it's
Yes.
not cheap.
No.
But I would-
Especially if you come all the way up here.
Right, but I assume that money, you know, the expenses that are going into hotel and travel and all that, that money goes into the scholarship.
Yeah,
It all goes back to that, so I mean, it's for a good cause, and I mean, you get all that information out of it.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, Potsdam, that would be a good thing to bring to
It would, I mean, there's a number of the big name speakers that I've been talking about, it would be great to have, but they're all so expensive to bring, it's just so expensive, so. But it is something that I always look into, like if there's anybody, any of them, if they were coming close by on a regular, something else they had planned, maybe they could add us on for a reduced rate or something since they're in the area. I keep looking at that, you know, to see if we could get any of these, Harry Lombard, Coro, so any of those people would be great.
Ron Clark comes to New York City a lot, so I mean, it could possible.
Okay.
The other thing I want to say, and this has nothing to do with Ron Clark, but just because we're talking about best management, philosophy, and all that, read up on Carol Dweck. You know that, right?
Spell the last name?
Dweck. And basically she has the growth mindset theory, and every school that I know of right now is subscribing to that. So that's, her name has come up
Okay.
countless times over the past 2 years that I've been teaching. So she's not really into management, she's more, I think that would be like intro to ed philosophy,
Right.
but still read up on her, because that will help you.
Okay.
So just throw that in there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Any other questions?
This is just more of an economic question. Do you know how he went about having Delta sponsoring the school?
I don't know about.
Like, how do you
Yeah, I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
get involved?
Yeah, it's crazy. If you go to his website, he has so many corporate sponsors, it's incredible. Like Comcast, Delta, Coca-Cola. He has, I mean, Coca-Cola, Atlanta is the Coca-Cola capital of the world. That's where their headquarters are. But, and he does this thing called it's called the Great Shake. And basically what he does is he has all of these corporate CEOs and everything come into his gymnasium, and the kids go around and they get interviewed by these CEOs, and then they're judged on their interpersonal skills, like handshaking, eye contact, answering questions, being articulate, and eventually it goes down to the final two, and the final two are invited to the Coca-Cola boardroom, where they have to interview with the CEO of Coca-Cola, and then that one kid wins the Great Shake. So I mean, he does a lot of, and you know, this reminds me, the thing I want you to take away with this is that there's so many things that Ron Clark does that I don't do. So you have to fuse Ron Clark in with your own philosophy and your own way of doing things. There are things, you know, like I would never do the Great Shake because it's just not something that interests me, you know, but he does, and you have to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. And he'll tell you that, you know, not everything that he does is going to interest you, not everything he does is going to work in your school district. And that's the other thing, you have to keep in mind your district policies and making sure that things that you do inside your district aren't against the rules. You know, like my district has a strict no social media policy, so a lot of the stuff that he does with social media we can't do. So you have to keep that in mind too. But still, you pick and choose what you do, and I mean, even if you do one or two things, it's still a lot better than a lot of the traditional methods, in my opinion. So, yes.
How many students are at the
I don't have a number for you. I know it's not large. It's probably a few hundred, maybe. It's not big at all. Yes.
Did you mention some places like they took the kids with that Delta privilege? Or?
Yeah. So, and he has pictures. He has pictures on Facebook and on his website. 5th graders don't go out of the country, so they'll travel to different states. One of the states they travel to is Utah, and they go to a skiing resort there, and then they do something educational with that. And then in 6th grade they go to, they went to France last year. 2 years ago they went to China. Ken Townsend went to Antarctica to study. They went to Madagascar because that's where the theory of evolution came from with, what's his name there? Darwin, yes. That's where Darwin, so they went to Madagascar and studied the animals there. So I mean, they go all over the place. It's crazy. I wish I could do that. That'd be cool. But I'm lucky to get a POTSDAM field trip, you know.
You got to go to the planetarium.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Because a lot of school districts don't even do field trips anymore, so we're super lucky.
It's true.
Super.
I'm going to ask the bad question. What happened to the gentleman whose student passed away?
You know what? It was never announced.
Oh, okay.
He, I don't know if it was a heart attack or what, but
Okay.
it was a pretty big deal around the Rock Park Academy. I mean, it was all over their Facebook page.
It sounded like it was sudden, unexpected.
It was sudden. It was unexpected. It was, I think, November of last year, so it was right in the middle of the school year. Yeah. Yeah. He passed away. So.
That would be hard.
Yeah. I mean, and you have to keep in mind. Have you taken community or not community school health? And they talk about death and dying and how that affects students, so, I mean, yeah, grief counseling and all that, so it was tough on the students, tough on the faculty.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because it's a unique situation. Is it considered a charter school?
No.
Alternative school?
It is a private school because it's tuition based,
Okay.
yes,
So it is private.
so.
Any other questions for
How long was the drive?
Too long. It was, we drove from Potsdam down to Macon, or no, not Macon. We drove to the Florida-Georgia line, like, the girls wanted to go into Florida, so we hopped the Florida-Georgia line just so that they could say they went to Florida. So, we went from Potsdam all the way to essentially Florida, and I want to say it was 18 hours.
But that's Florida, which is farther than you had to go.
Right, because Atlanta is toward the top of Georgia, but the Luke Bryan concert was on the other end of the state. So,
Priorities.
Yeah.
You can work in other priorities. So to go there, we were thinking 16 hours maybe.
I'm thinking about
Is that what we
probably.
said?
16 hours. It takes about like 18, 20 hours to get to Florida, depending like what part of Florida you're going to.
Yeah, we just went to the line.
And did you drive straight through?
Yeah, we didn't stop. They got mad at me about that because they wanted to stop. I'm like, no, we're not going to stop. Just keep going, and then we'll all take turns driving. Because I was not trying to stay at a hotel. Like, I just wanted to get there. So I inserted my authority a little bit. Not that I had any.
So how many days total? You drove straight down, did you drive straight back?
Yes.
So 2 days of driving.
We had to drive straight back though because it was Monday.
Yeah.
And then Tuesday were classes, so we had to drive straight back.
You drove overnight?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And once you get into like Pennsylvania, gas stations are not common. I mean, you're driving through the sticks and it was bad because we were on empty for like 30 miles. We thought we were gonna, and we just at the last second we found a gas station. So, I will tell you that if you're gonna drive with people, make sure you like them. Not that I love, the girls were awesome and I like them, but I mean, it's a small space for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So if someone annoys you, best not go with them.
So you did it in 3 days, or did you do 4?
No, we left Thursday because the Luke Bryan we left Friday because the Luke Bryan concert was Saturday.
Okay.
And then, so yeah, we left Friday
You have Friday?
into Saturday.
Right.
Did not sleep all night, did not sleep all day. Went to the Luke Bryan concert, which was at the Wakefield compound, which is, do you know what wakeboarding is?
Yeah.
It's kind of like surfing a little bit, but so it was at the wakeboarding compound. So we were under the Georgia heat all day long. We all left with suntans, and we were all so tired after that day. And then Sunday we traveled up to Atlanta, and then we stayed overnight and went Monday, and we were back to
I asked the question about getting reimbursed with gas and
Yeah.
hotel. What about like breakfast, lunch, dinner?
Yeah, that's all covered.
Oh, really?
The only thing they don't cover, if you buy alcohol,
Right.
they won't cover that. They won't cover, if you buy merchandise and stuff like that. But
Right.
basically they gave us a set price. They said for the 4 of us, grad studies gave us $1,600. So they would reimburse any food, lodging, travel, up to that amount, plus the registration fee. So that $1,600, the registration fee was $360 plus tax. So that $1,600 from the grad studies pretty much paid for our registrations. And then
That's $360 whatever each person.
Right.
Right.
Yes, $360 each person. So it was $400 per person that grad studies gave us. The dean's office, I think he gave us $500, and then curriculum and instruction gave us $500. So we used 1 car, so that it was probably like $200 or $300 in gas, and then the only thing else that we had was food. So it was completely reimbursed outside of the stuff.
The key is to kind of make a budget, make a plan, do a proposal, and the key is what are you going to do with it when you come back? He did a presentation to share it with other people, anything that he's coming in to kind of, so because the college, if they support something, they want you to like do presentations or help other people learn about it or do a workshop or something, so think about that too. Okay.
And so you said you had to go through grad studies. something else at another place?
Yeah, so
Like,
grad studies with Josh,
Yeah.
curriculum instruction with Sandy Chadwick. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if she would be able to give you any money this time. I think she made an exception for us because,
Wasn't for Josh though.
No, not at all.
Are you in the
Does not.
SUNY program? You're MST child. Yeah, so just that, if
Or
you do a
Vicky.
proposal, you just take it to different places and see if you can get it.
And you bring the same proposal?
Yeah.
To,
Talk to Vicky. I think, isn't she taking over for Sandy?
Yeah, yeah.
Talk to Vicky, she's good about that stuff. And then the dean's office gave us 500, so. And you have to have the proposal, make copies of it, because you have to give that proposal every time you ask for money. Other options were SGA. We didn't try SGA, but they said that was an option.
Yeah.
We were pressed for time, and SGA is a process, a lot of red tape, so we didn't have time for that.
There's also TISA, there's a Teacher Ed Student Association. I don't know if they have a budget, but
Right.
you could ask our TISA.
And that's Nicole Femmel, if you want to talk to her. So, I mean, there are ways to get money. And then you could crowdsource, or crowdfunding or whatever, you could do that, I guess, I don't know. So, I'm of the mindset that if you want something to happen, you just make it happen.
And do some checking, because I don't know, I have to think about this. Sometimes renting a car with unlimited mileage is cheaper than doing all the gas receipts. Because if you have an unlimited mileage, you still pay for gas. I don't know. Think about renting a car.
So we'd get reimbursed for renting the car, is what you're saying.
If it depends on how many you're going. I'm thinking if you get more than 4.
We could rent a big, huge van.
you would have a lot of people out of that one.
Yeah.
So think about like
Got a bus.
vans or something or.
Oh, well, I don't know if this is a possibility, but I remember when more than 4 of us were thinking, POTSDAM has the vans.
We see, we have 12 person vans, and we have cars. I'm not sure if they might have minivans now.
But I don't know if they let you go that.
I don't know, yeah.
And I know that someone in that car needs to be registered with POTSDAM, and they have to have a license and they're registered.
Yeah.
I don't know that they'll just let it go to students. Like if there's a faculty member going with you and the faculty member drives, then that's fine. Or if they're, so depending, it just depends. If you get a big group and you want faculty to go to, or you just want to do it yourselves with your own cars, there's just options, ways to think about it. It's worth investigating the cost. So I know every time we take a trip for work, we investigate, is it cheaper to do gas receipts with our personal car, do the rental car, or do a state car? We always check, because depending on the trip, where and how far, and one way is cheaper than another, so it's just worth checking, so.
I'll take more questions, but I'll just end by saying, the amount of work that goes into planning something like this is not something that is done overnight. It takes a lot of work in planning. But the magic that you go through during the day around Clark Academy is worth it. I mean, you walk out of there, and for me personally, when I walked out of Clark Academy after that day, I understood my purpose. I realized my purpose even more, and it just energized me and rejuvenated me because. No offense, Dr. A, but you go to all these classes and you get all this, this philosophy and all of this stuff, but it's nice to go somewhere where you're getting practical strategies and tips that you can use in the classroom, because I'm all about practicality. And that was one of my issues with the grad class. I know you have to go through it, but I like being taught practical things that I can use in the classroom. And, when you're learning all these philosophers and stuff, sometimes it's just a lot of theory
And especially a theory like Glenn Clark, you have to go see it. You can't, it's hard to explain. You need to go experience it.
Yeah, I don't even do it justice. There's no way.
It's hard.
It is.
It was nice, the person who presented last week showed 3, I think, video clips. That really helped to kind of get, to see video clips of the different things. That really helped, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions?
I have his contact info. I know where he lives, so we could get a hold of him if we have more questions, as we get into stuff. But it's the kind of thing where students just get together and, start with Josh, what can we do, go ask around, pull a proposal together, find out who's interested. And I think the group, honestly, being prepared for this, I think the group was bigger to start with. And then it ended up being 4, or.
Yeah, there were a ton of people that wanted to go. And we were given 1,600, and we're like, well, we're not going to take everybody because we were selfish. So we're like, we're just going to take 4 people. buy 4 registrations with the
January
1,600.
was
And you know what? Grad studies might give you more money. I don't know, they might give you less. That 1,600 was 2 years ago, so I mean, a lot changes in 2 years.
But
so.
even if you get some, and then you know, like, okay, if we can at least get our registrations covered, we'll all chip in for the gas, or we'll all chip in, I mean, buy your own food, or, you know, there's ways to make it happen if you really wanna go. If you don't get it all covered,
Dr. A, you should take a trip now.
well, I told them I would go if they want me to go.
When does next semester officially start, like the date?
I think that's 20.
It's the Monday, and if you have a calendar, it's the 20, it's
So
the
she was
20.
just looking at it and the first available appointment was, I think, January 12th or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still on break.
Fifteen.
You're still on break.
Still on break.
Yeah, that's a good time to go. You might wanna buffer in a little more time, however, whoever does
Yeah, in
it,
case of travel.
because of weather.
Yeah.
Cause January is weather.
That's a Friday.
Can you log me in here? I just wanna show you, one of the things that they had at the Ron Clark Academy that they don't anymore is they
I
have
think
this,
that's a good month to go though.
educator access website, you needed a password. And so if you went, you got 6 months free, and it was usually $200 a year for this. So we got 6 months free, but they never checked it, so I had it free literally. And, they just recently closed it, so let me,
6 months free.
I'm gonna put this on your desktop, Dr. A,
Yeah, that's
just,
fine. So what I'm gonna say is, they did it one way. I know there were originally a lot of people interested in going. It sounds like they made a choice in deciding how they were doing it, who was going. But I would say have it open to as many people who wanna go. And, you know, like you said about the, you know, if you do the carpooling, if you get, you know, the people in this car all like each other, and the people in this car all, I mean, that works better. You can have more than one car go and have a convoy and do tandem or whatever. But just be prepared that when it gets down to the final, there may be some people that don't end up going. Your group may be smaller than what you start with. That often happens. So, you know, figure out budget-wise either way. What are we gonna do if some people drop out? If your budget's too tight or whatever, so just keep that in mind. And also, I don't know if we talked about this in class last week, think about if you wanna open it up to other students that you know, that you feel comfortable with in other classes. There's some, I teach across classes, and some of them aren't in this class, but they're in my research class, or they're in, you know, and they're all like MST child or in MST programs or whatever. There may be others that you think, yeah, they'd be a good fit with our group, and they're interested in coming. You might think about if it helps you with costs, getting more people, you might think about opening it up a little bit.
What about people that don't even go here? I have some friends that are doing teaching in Canada right now.
I would say that's up to the group. I would say, yeah, we're mostly grad students here. There's also all the teacher and undergrad students. But, you know, if it's people that you know that you feel like, yeah, they travel well with the group, and you want a good group that, or even mini groups if you end up with a lot of people, do some good carpools that will work.
The only thing is, how would the funding work if there were people that weren't from student POTSDAM?
They wouldn't get the funding. But if
Yeah.
they wanted to go and
They could just fund themselves.
pay and help contribute to the other costs, absolutely, yeah. I honestly don't know that you get the good deal that John did, but it's, you know, I mean, you get, see what money you could get, put a budget together, and then, okay, if we get half of it, we'll all split in and pay the other half and pitch in, and it's worth it. If you haven't experienced it, it's worth it, so.
I thought I had the files, but I don't. I thought it was on my Google Drive, but, I'm type A OCD, so I like to clean stuff out. It's on my USB drive, but basically, when you went to the Educator Access website, all of the staff at the Ron Clark Academy, they uploaded different lesson plans, and they uploaded different raps and stuff that they used. So I have tons of files for social studies, math, science, ELA, classroom management stuff, and I have all of those files, and I figured if I could share them with you, then you could give them to everybody
Sure,
if they
that's
want.
fine.
And, you know, one of the things that I use constantly is Adam Dovico uploaded, it's called No Assembly Required, and it's just different activities that you can do at the drop of a dime, like, one thing I do is called the dice game. So you have a deck of cards, or you don't have a deck of cards, you have a die, and you have 2 people, and whatever you're learning about, the one person is rolling the dice, and then the other person's writing, so like, write everything you know about ancient Greece that we've been learning about. So they'll start writing everything they know, and then when someone rolls a 6, then they have to switch roles, and that person will roll the dice, and that person will write. And it's just really quick lesson activities that keep the students engaged, and it's fun. So I do that stuff all the time.
Delta, Coca-Cola, Oprah, Comcast, Newell, Rubbermaid.
Are you kidding?
Thank you. You don't have to give thank yous every time I come over here.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Did anybody else have any other questions?
Did anyone want to look at the Run Park books?
Yeah.
Jenna?
Oh,
You
no,
want to
this
look
is
at the books? Okay. All right, so we can shut off any tape recording. I think we can shut that off now. Do we need, not to belabor